district leadership, Linda Bortman, our club growth director, and Tina Tate, our program quality director for District 2. I want to introduce Karen Lesson, who is our District 2 Advanced Training Committee Chair, and she has graciously accepted to be our timer today. Thank you, Karen. And now I'd like to introduce your presenter for the Sergeant of Arms Club Officer Training, Erin Hallenberg. Erin will present hybrid meetings and incorporate the Sergeant of Arms responsibilities into his presentation. The trend towards normalization is upon us, and this training can help clubs transition from virtual to in-person live or to hybrid meetings. Mr. Erin Hallenberg is a registered profession engineer and has been a Toastmaster since 1999. He began his Toastmasters journey in Salt Lake City with the Salty Tongues Club. Under the Legacy program, he is an achieved competent communicator, competent club leader, and advanced leader bronze. He moved to the Pacific Northwest in 2015, where he joined the Barclays Club in Bellingham, and then moved to Blaine and is now part of the Birch Bay Blaine Club. Now, under the Pathways curriculum, he has finished the second pathway, Persuasive Influence, and over his tenure, he has held every position at the club level, including the Sergeant at Arms. Currently serving as Division A, Area 11 Director. He is working towards his DTM, which he hopes to achieve in 2022. Let's give Erin a warm welcome. Welcome, Erin. Erin, would you like to check your mic?
Check 1, 2.
Okay, you're good. You're audible.
All right, and everybody's seeing my screen? All right. What we have in store for you today is a traditional Sergeant of Arms training, plus a heavy dose of how to get started or how to improve your meeting into a hybrid meeting. And what do I mean by hybrid? Well, I'll get into that further on into the talk, but basically it's conducting an in-person or a face-to-face meeting along with a Zoom meeting and being proficient at it. Technology should not get in the way of a speaker's interaction or the delivery. So what is it that we're going to review today? Well, the Sergeant at Arms role and the responsibilities, the hybrid meetings, and then finally, the Sergeant at Arms resources. We've all heard of the sandwich method in Toastmasters. Well, we have a hybrid meat part right in the middle of this presentation. Your role as a Sergeant of Arms is changing. In reality, for most Sergeant of Arms in the last 24 months, we can say it's really hasn't been a demanding job unless you took on additional responsibilities. Toastmasters International has identified the Sergeant of Arms as a position that can facilitate the transition from virtual to hybrid, and realize for the convenience of your members, including membership increases and a broader technical experience, hybrid meetings may be with Toastmasters from here on out. I wouldn't be surprised if Toastmasters International's made Zoom Master a position on the executive committee. Resources. I'll be supplying resources at the end of this speech, whether it is YouTube or different training videos that are on the TMI site. Responsibilities. We talked about roles, now responsibilities. They remain the same, but with hybrid meetings, the scope of the responsibilities will increase. Traditionally at the club meeting, outside the club meeting, and in the executive committee meeting. We want to help you ID your responsibilities in this new world because we are in a period of transition. But before, during, and after, responsibilities really don't change. For instance, at the club meeting, there will be face-to-face prep, but there also will be virtual prep. Outside the meeting will be more of ensuring that supplies are readily available and virtual training and connections are maintained. Before the club meeting, traditionally, you confirm the room is reserved, you make sure that there are supplies available. Before the club meeting hybrid, you make sure that Zoom master has been assigned. Make sure that the hardware, including all those cords, are in the meeting room. Upon arrival at the club meetings, traditionally, you should arrive 15 minutes early, making sure the tables and chairs are arranged and you've set out the materials for that meeting. With the hybrid meeting, you also have to check for virtual connections, the setups, and making sure that your mics, your speakers, your display panels, your projectors are all in working condition. And then during the club meetings, traditionally, be there first to greet visitors and members at the door. Check that room temperature and encourage visitors and guests to sign the guest book. On the hybrid meeting, check to make sure that your broadcast, audio and visually, is clear. Help that Zoom master with technical issues. Make sure that vote counters can obtain the votes, both virtually and out there in the meeting room. Conducting the hybrid meetings. Moving Toastmasters to the meeting in hybrid format makes logical sense. Prior to COVID, we mastered that face-to-face meeting. We mastered the protocol, the meeting format, and the speech delivery. And over the last 24 months, most clubs have learned, adjusted, and improved that online meeting. Yes, we still are reminded to turn on and off our speakers, and sometimes that internet connection plays havoc with our transmission. But for the most part, we've mastered the online meeting. This training segment is to provide the necessary ingredients, the knowledge, the materials, the do's and the don'ts that result in clubs conducting engaging hybrid meetings. To simplify this, the in-house meeting during this presentation will be referred to as F2F or face-to-face. And the online participants are going to be referred to as ZMPs or Zoom participants. Also, because in this presentation, we have human speakers and we have equipment speakers, I'm going to be referring to us human speakers as orators, just to avoid some confusion. And I've divided up these segments into technology and equipment, the people, the practices, and the presenters. Remember, the goal for engaging meetings is to have everybody fully engaged. That means educating people on how to connect and maneuver remotely. Whether it's as simple as switching from gallery to speaker view, or knowing how to adjust your own volume, or knowing your audience and their capabilities. These are all key ingredients to having a successful, engaging hybrid meeting. Okay, so hybrid meetings can start very simply. A small group can get by with only a laptop and a good internet connection. And maybe that's how you and your club has started out, and that's good. But even though laptop microphones and cameras have greatly improved over the years, they're only good for small rooms and small groups. The hybrid meeting may not be engaging for your virtual, the ZMP participants. Audio. Audio is the most important thing when you're doing a hybrid meeting. Remember, the participants in the room should be able to hear clearly the people online, and the online people should be able to hear participants, all the participants in the room. Next in line is the video. The participants in the room should be able to see who's speaking remotely, down to the facial expressions. And the remote people should be able to see the in-room presenters, the face-to-face presenters. So you may be adding screens and cameras and more equipment and better equipment because your club can eventually make it the best hybrid meeting possible. So you've heard me use these words, good, better, and best. And I'll go through these attributes. And first and foremost, the item that scares clubs with older members is the technology. Now, I've wired up my fair share of speakers and radios and turntables and stuff, and this is no different. But remember, all the connections need to go to your main laptop. Most clubs have settled on a platform, and Zoom is the clear winner. But there are attributes to MS Teams and Google Hangout that could enhance your meetings. Over to better, the webcam can replace that laptop camera, providing clarity and wider angles. Microphones are designed to pick up voices throughout the meeting room and deliver them to the online participants, the ZMPs. Having a second laptop or a smartphone connected to your Zoom meeting is very helpful along the lines of making sure you got additional technical help. Comments can be handled and raising hands or getting messages. So we went good, better, here's best. What is the goal here? Going from good to better to best. In this whack-a-mole pandemic that we're having, you got to realize that the virtual meeting's probably not going to go away. So let's strive for best. Webcams are a big part of going better to best. Whether the face-to-face meeting has a stationary orator platform or the face-to-face participants speak from where they're seated, mobile mics and a webcam can greatly enhance the engagement of online participants. Wide angles, clarity, the mobility of the camera, and a better picture quality are all attributes of a good webcam. And I have speakers here listed under best and better. Bluetooth speakers are more mobile and one less set of wires for letting your face-to-face participants hear the online crowd. Microphones, cord or cordless. A microphone will allow the ZMP participants hear with clarity and volume what is going on in the face-to-face meeting room. 2 mics are better than 1, but please be aware that audio feedback, that sound that you hear, is one of the biggest problems when you add mics. Video. I've got video up here because having a large screen TV or a projector in a screen or even large screen laptop will allow participants to focus their attention on both the face-to-face and the ZMP presenters. This is an important aspect of engagement. The ZMPs can start to feel left out if they see a group of people in the meeting room congregating and talking and they can't hear or see what is going on. It's like having those old rabbit ear TV antennas. When there's so much snow and static, eventually you turn the channel. So here's some of the equipment that I'm talking about. Audio. You need good audio, and we know what a microphone is. I've also got a picture of a mobile Bluetooth microphone there. You can get cheap $20 speakers at Big Lots that will allow your in-person, your face-to-face participants hearing especially what the people online are saying. Don't rely on your laptop to broadcast who is online and what they are saying. And then I also talked about the cell phone or the second laptop. That can greatly enhance what is going on and the engagement back and forth. So I talked about a single microphone and a double microphone. Single setting face-to-face is good. I'm talking about one microphone where the odd counter, the timer, the presiding officers, all the orators come up to a single mic. That is simple and it's efficient, but it can be time consuming. And with COVID, there could be some health considerations. Making sure you have a second laptop with the audio off, pointed towards all the face-to-face participants is highly recommended. And based on the other training videos that I've seen on hybrid meetings, a horseshoe-shaped meeting room is optimal for the single setting microphone. But if you want to go from good to better, 2 microphones. One microphone for the presiding officer, the orators, the evaluators, and the table topic master. The odd counter, the grammarian, the timer, the table topics participants use that traveling mic. This will enhance online participants, making sure that they feel engaged with what is going on in that meeting room. And webcams, again, they can make a wide angle so everybody can see who is at the meeting and who is currently speaking. And if you set your controls right on the main laptop, whoever is speaking can go to that main screen. So multiple settings, face-to-face, striving for the best. Some of you have this equipment already. Some of you may be looking for purchasing the equipment. Sony puts a great webcam out for under $100, but please don't forget the tripod for the webcam, or else you'll be stacking books, making sure it's at the right height and at the right angle. Get a tripod. A big screen TV can show everybody online who the current orator is. And thinking of engagement of both your virtual and in-person participants, make sure there is clear video and audio. I really don't recommend split screens on one big screen. Have 2 screens, one on the participants in line and one who is the main orator. And then the audio mixer. Oh my gosh, what's the audio mixer about? Well, you can get one for under $80, but so many people say, no way, that's too complicated. But with a well audio mixer, you can free up your laptop, because an audio mixer can provide light and colored coded displays that will make the Zoom master's life a lot easier. It won't be second guessing which mic to turn up the volume or which mic to turn off. An audio mixer is something you really need to consider. And then there's all those connections. I brought some of these up here just to remind you that it's not that complicated. We've got USB cables, DVI cables, HDMI cables, VGA cables. There's so many different types, but the connections are standard for most. HDMI is for audio, VGA is for visual, and the PS2 cables for videos and the USBs are becoming more ubiquitous for different applications. But always remember that DVI cable, that yellow cord, is your connection to the Ethernet. Going back to the good, the better, the hybrid meeting and the people. As mentioned before, going good doesn't mean a lot of equipment, but it does require being prepared. In addition to making sure that you have an odd counter, a general evaluator, you have a master of controls. That's paramount. That may be you, or it may be the Zoom master, but make sure it's assigned. Having documents already and sent out before the meeting is well advised. Remember, you got to send them out virtually and you got to hand them out physically. That avoids that beginning of the meeting frenzy so many of us experience as Sergeant at Arms. You can reduce that by making sure you're prepared. And especially for the first few meetings, the online participants, the ZMPs, should be encouraged to test their virtual equipment before the meeting starts, especially if they have a big speaking part, including the volume control, and learning and making sure that they can practice sharing screens and presenting. And make sure that your online participants, this is a Sergeant of Arms issue because it's meeting prep, make sure they have the proper lighting so that people can see online participants' face and facial expressions clearly. And something that people may not think about are assignments for counting the votes, both online and face-to-face. You're going to have two sets of votes coming in when you're voting for table topics winner or the speech winner. Sergeant of Arms, make sure that you can congregate both set of votes to the proper people. And if a single orator mic is not used, always test other mics' broadcast volumes to avoid interrupting comments such as, hey, can you turn on that speaker a little louder? Can you turn on the volume? You don't want to hear that in the middle of a speech. Going to best beyond better, have a written list of common troubleshooting procedures, such as the ZMP orator can't be heard, or you're getting audio feedback when you're using two mics, or the video on the second computer isn't working, or people have issues switching from shared screen to other screens. I recommend starting small and building. Hold that practice meeting with a limited number of members to, one, see if the technology works, and two, to see if the people operating the technology works. And also make sure that you're documenting who is having trouble and what troubles they are encountering so that they can be addressed before next meetings. If you want to head to best, the IT savvy person should have an understudy, because eventually your Zoom master, your IT person, is going to miss a meeting. And that person is vital for you holding a hybrid meeting. It takes practice, it takes practice, it takes practice to make perfect, but a couple of pictures taken of the setup and put there with your equipment can really save a lot of anxiety when that Zoom master doesn't show up for a meeting. So I'm going to take a little break here and see if there's any questions. I don't have to read you these bullets, but please read them. And if there's any questions at this point, I'll see if I can answer them.
And feel free to use the chat. Oh, okay. Or John,
I'm sorry.
go ahead. No, John, go ahead.
Okay, so within our club, we have we have a technology person already who works for Microsoft. And he is our equivalent of a Zoom master. And so during the virtual meetings, he has set up everything, including the votes and the times and the Zoom accounts and everything like that. Now with a hybrid meeting, so it's just going to be between me and him, is that correct?
I would think of yourself as the project manager and him as the IT expert. You got to make his life simpler. And if you want to become his understudy, like I said, he eventually may miss a meeting. Making sure that you know how to connect everything up, including screenshots, will just greatly enhance your hybrid meeting and lower your anxiety level.
I have a question. This is a lot of information. Is there a way that we can come back and review this at a later time?
Sure, I've got references and resources at the end of the speech, but I can share this. I can share this slide deck with anybody if you want to send me an email address, or maybe Gina can help facilitate
Yes.
that.
Yes, I think it would be good to send around a copy of the presentation, the video link, and definitely the links at the end of your presentation and the presentation itself. So Mary, we have your email address when you registered, so I think we'll share that with the whole team here, and we may have it available at the D2 website, I guess. Tina, is that okay if we have links there, or what's your suggestion? I guess we can discuss that and share that with
Links
your
on the
labs.
website.
Would be able to do that.
I
Maybe
wouldn't
not.
promise anything, but we
Yeah,
can try.
I'll send it around, and it could be, I'll put it in Starburst too. How's that? That there'll be where to find Erin's presentation.
Well, the recording can be found on the District 2 YouTube channel.
Okay,
Ooh.
yeah, that was, yeah, at least the recording, but links in the presentation, it's a PDF, so the links don't, the links work in PDF, so that's good. I guess that would be okay.
Oh, so you mean the slide deck, right? And then could all those be found on the District 2 website as well as YouTube channel?
Well, what we can do is Gina can send out the slide deck to everyone that's in attendance.
Okay. I just put my email address in the chat. I know that I'm registered, so okay.
We have your email. Yeah, we have everybody's email.
Yeah, thank you,
No
John.
problem.
Gina, I have the slide deck in PDF form. I will drop it in chat today before we all leave, okay?
Okay, that sounds great.
All right, well, back to the presentation. I gave this to Area 11, 4 different clubs, and one feedback was, Erin, what do you recommend as basically getting that basic hybrid meeting started? What equipment? And this is what I came up with. 2 laptops, use only 1 camera on the laptop and 1 mic. The other one is basically a monitor. And then you have 1 microphone, a single speaker central. You can advance to 2 microphones after you get the 1 microphone. Strongly recommend this black speaker at the bottom so everybody in the room can hear the people online. And again, that webcam, that $80 webcam from Lincoln, can greatly enhance your meeting. The main orator can use the laptop camera, but that webcam should be pointed to everybody else in the room. That's my basic setup. Once you're proficient at this, add that equipment one by one. Here are the resources. Don't forget, back in September, District 2's newsletter, they had a hybrid meeting article and a lot of references. And then on the Toastmaster International website, they have running a successful hybrid club meeting. And they also have Toolbox Hybrid World. If you go to YouTube, very good basic one, how to have a hybrid meeting that works for everybody. That's not a Toastmasters, but it is a very good basic hybrid meeting informational source. Toastmasters, not on the website, but in YouTube, they have Create a Perfect Hybrid Meeting, Zoom with physical attendance. And then the Rotary Club, our partners in Rotary Club, if you really want to get into the connections and how to program your laptop computer, they've got about a 25-minute video on everything you need to know tech-wise. It's lengthy, but if you drill down into this 25-minute presentation, there's a lot of good information. And then finally, I got to bring up Marcus. Marcus is a Toastmaster. He's also a professional comedian, and he has 5 or 6 Zoom meeting how-tos, like avoiding audio feedback or camera and room setup. And he does it with a smile and a laugh on his face. I recommend Marcus. He's kind of entertaining.
I would have to say, what about our Gavel Club partners? Would it be the same thing as our Rotary partners?
I'm not familiar with that term, gavel partner. We call it Rotary up here.
Oh, these are the young Toastmasters. They're between the ages of
16.
or even 13 to 18, right?
Yeah. Because we've been
And-
meeting with our local Gavel clubs during our virtual meetings. And so I just thought I might put that in there.
Yeah, I think well, Jackie Bailey is the chair of the Gavel Club for District 2, so I can put you together with her on how maybe to extend this type of knowledge to that group.
Hmm.
So we're returning here to the more traditional Sergeant at Arms slide deck. And what do you do during club meetings? You have to work with your webmaster or your Zoom master. So if you don't have one, invite somebody in your club to work with you. Remember, a big part of Toastmasters is networking. And if you don't have all the technical skills to hold a hybrid meeting, 2 heads are better than 1. And you may be able to work through all this with the YouTube and all the instructional videos on the TMI site. What else? Being heard, sharing screens, switching views. You need to practice at these things. It's not a time at the meeting that you practice. It's before the meeting or after the meeting to make sure your members are capable and confident. And then returning the club meeting, after the club meeting, returning the room to the original configuration, packing up and storing the materials and disposing of trash. But with a hybrid meeting, I strongly recommend one of those 20-gallon plastic tubs, those storage tubs, where you put all the connection wires with their labels. Where do they connect? And maybe a couple of pictures that you have taken on the setup to make sure that you can repeat it week after week. It may become clockwork, but those first couple hybrid meetings, you need a little confidence and a little instructional go by. So I recommend getting one of those tubs and making sure that people don't have to bring those cords or the equipment to the meeting. They can just bring that tub. Outside the club meeting, you schedule the meeting location, you ensure adequate supplies are available, and you attend executive committee meetings. Ensuring supplies are available, that's besides the vote counting and evaluation feedbacks. Those supplies also include the cords, the cables, and every connection that you can think of that you may need. And then at the executive committee meeting, you update the executive committee on the club meeting status and how are members doing virtually. You help coordinate the meeting space and you help coordinate with the Zoom master that virtual meeting space. You chair social and reception committees, and you also chair some training sessions for those members virtually that are having a hard time, and then replace items as needed. The responsibilities don't change, just the scope of the responsibilities are changing. The Sergeant of Arms needs to ask who, what, when, and why. And the who, I think, is the most important, to making sure that there's an understudy for you and there's an understudy for the Zoom master. But after every meeting, make sure you keep a running list of what needs to make that meeting more engaging, what needs to be labeled, and what can you do to make sure that the anxiety level stays low. These questions change over time, but those first couple of hybrid meetings, please pay attention to this because if something written down doesn't go away. The action plan for Sergeant of Arms, how will you fulfill this responsibility? When will each action be completed? Who is available to help you? And what materials and resources can you use? There's always people in Toastmasters that can help you out. And if they can't help you out, they know somebody that can help you. Again, networking is part of Toastmasters professional development. And finally, this is the other resources for the Sergeant at Arms that is on the TMI website. And it is easy to find if you just go there and do the search function. I'm going to end my presentation on what questions do you have? I'll see if I can field any other questions on the second half of this presentation.
Aaron, I got a question. I was thinking about this, and I'm in several clubs, and one of the clubs could become a hybrid club, and we probably have the technology to support it. But is there any thought from TI, as a lot of clubs become hybrid clubs, for budget for any technology?
I don't have a specific answer, but I asked my division director, they had some Toastmaster dollars and they wanted to use it to purchase a webcam.
Right.
And the division director said he didn't see any issue with that.
Oh, okay. I wasn't
not
aware.
quite sure how you turn club dollars into purchasing it at a store, but that was the question and that was his answer.
Interesting. Okay.
I was going to ask them, are they going to have microphones, etc., available to purchase from the Toastmaster store? That would simplify it. You could use your
Right. That would
dollars.
evolve.
Okay,
Could it evolve to that?
I can kind of help answer this question. Your D2 dollars, the way it works for anything that is an approved expense, so anything for your club, so that there's hybrid needs, Zoom, Zoom account, Meetup, all of that. How it works with the D2 is that you purchase the item and you get reimbursed through a Concur account. When your club receives D2, you receive an email from Teresa Lindahl, who is the recognition chair, with instructions on how to use your D2. So essentially you put out the money and then you're reimbursed.
Okay.
The D2 do not work on the Toastmasters International website.
Thanks for the
That
clarification.
helps. And there is
Yeah.
I did not know that. Yeah.
Nothing that we've heard that they're going to be offering any equipment on the Toastmasters International website as of now.
Okay.
There is there is an approved reimbursement, or is that something that that hasn't been figured out yet? Because it seems like the trend is going to be a lot of clubs are moving to hybrid. That's what it seems like, but it's hard for me to say. I'm just feeling that.
Yeah, and Linda will go over, I think that's part of her announcements, is going over the incentives and what things, where you can find what the approved purchases are.
So there is a webcam on the Toastmasters International store. I don't know the quality, but
Yeah,
go to the store and look.
Okay, interesting. And I was asking for others
That's wonderful.
too.
That is good news.
I'm in clubs, I think.
Could I switch the focus a little bit off of equipment and move to the actual meeting and how it's orchestrated? My club went hybrid last summer before Delta hit, because our room already had a screen and a projector. So it was a matter of figuring out how to hook up our computer, and that we did not have extra speakers or cameras. So we brought in 2 laptops, one faced the audience and one faced the speaker. But we found that the speakers didn't know who to look at. Did you look at the camera? Did you look at the audience? It was very awkward, and we found ourselves looking more at the computer than the audience, which was kind of a distraction. The second thing was that when the speaker was speaking on Zoom, giving a speech, the Toastmaster would sit down, and it's been drilled into me, you never leave the podium, you never leave the podium. So there was this picture of the podium just empty, which really bugged me. And just the dynamics of how the meeting is supposed to operate was very interesting to us. And unfortunately, we had to give it up once the Delta variant hit, but it was an interesting experience, and we really had to struggle with how to actually run the meeting itself with the limited equipment that we had. So I'll just throw that out there.
Interesting real life experiences, Janice.
Yeah.
Maybe putting a picture of somebody's face on that little dot on your laptop where you're supposed to look will remind people. But when you do give a speech, you're supposed to go around the audience and make eye contact. If we can maybe drill that into people's head, that one of the people where you meet eye contact is a little light on your laptop. Maybe that will help it. But leaving the podium, that is another issue that I hadn't thought of. That's a good thing to think about.
And it's going to be unique for a lot of us to relearn some of these skills too.
Yeah, I think that it would be important that whoever is at the podium has to stay there. Even if they're not speaking, and someone on Zoom is speaking, they have to stay at the podium. It just, otherwise it looks very awkward.
I see a hand raised from Sarah. Sarah, you have a comment or question? Oh, I don't hear you. Let me check your mute button.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, you're fine.
So I wanted to direct my comment to Janice. We had the same problem with people not looking at the camera, and we solved it by, we have a projector in the room. And instead of projecting onto the wall, because everyone kept turning and looking at the projection of the Zoom people, we projected straight out across from the lectern onto a blank canvas that you can get from Michael's. So the canvas is not huge. We hang it on a pole that's across from the lectern, and we put the camera right above that canvas. So since it's a white blank canvas, the projector ends up using it as a screen. And when you're looking at that canvas, you're looking at the camera because the camera's perched on top of it. But then we also remind people, look at everyone else in the room too, you know. So the people on that screen aren't the only people here, and you're working the room the way you should be working it anyway. Though I do think it's another skill we're going to learn, and it's a good skill to learn, that the camera is something that we're supposed to speak to, but we'll get there. And I think there was something else someone mentioned, I can't remember now. We're putting on hybrid meetings that sometimes are so good, and then the next meeting, they're terrible. And we keep changing what we're doing, and then someone gives a PowerPoint presentation and it's an utter failure. We just keep trying to hang in there. And Bob King is in my club, and he just wrote up a really good checklist for us. We've cleaned out our utility closet, and I swear we're going to get good enough at this to give a presentation one day. Mark my words.
Thank you so much, Sarah. And I think we are at time. So I'd like to be respectful for the other parts of our program. Erin, any last comments before we turn it over to the district for a bit?
I just thank you for this opportunity, and I hope it was informative. Thank you, Gina.
Thank you. And we will stop recording now. So I'd like to introduce our district leaders. Then they have some announcements today.